As we begin today, Reed is looking at an ad that the department has placed in an obscure, low-distribution muscle-building magazine. The ad announces that the government is working on a super-strength pill and is looking for physically superior specimens to test it on. Naturally, Hal reads that magazine, so he's headed downtown to volunteer because who else fits their description so accurately? Don't believe it? Just ask him. He'll tell you all about it. Now, here's something I didn't understand in 1967, and I still don't. This pill gives a person, a man, we already established that genetics doesn't do stuff like that to women, super strength, super reflexes, the ability to fly, and all the rest. What does it matter what the subject looks like before he takes the pill? Why are they only looking for muscle heads who are already strong, fast, have extra muscles hiding under their fingernails, and all the rest? Wouldn't it make more sense to give it to the regular soldier on the battlefield, or the brainiac scientist or spy who uses his wits to do his job? Couldn't they do a lot with super strength? And the best thing about those guys is they don't stand out. They can hide in plain sight because they look just like everybody else. Witness Stanley Beamish. They've already proved that it doesn't take a super hunk to use this pill. But this is a government operation, so it'll probably take them at least another 10 years to figure that out. As soon as Hal is out of the room, Stanley calls Mr. Reed and asks if he's being replaced. Reed says far from it. In fact, we need you to come in right now and demonstrate your powers to some friendly foreign scientists. Just then Hal comes in and Stanley says, "Hey, I called after all and they want to see me. We can go down there together." Cut to our villains, a pair of spies who want to get their hands on the power pill formula, presumably for a hostile foreign power. Excuse me.
Standing on the corridor towards us. Now.
Excuse me, aren't you Dr. Chelsea, the internationally known scientist?
Guilty as charged, young lady.
Could I have your autograph?
Well, I am in rather a hurry, but, of course.
They replace him with a ringer and send their man to the meeting. At the meeting, Reed is explaining the various aspects of the pill's effects to the other scientists when Stanley comes in. Scientist number 3 hasn't arrived yet, presumably due to the big lump on his head. Meanwhile, in another part of the building...
Tell me, young man, how do you manage to stay in such excellent physical condition?
Oh, with exercise. Yeah, every morning I get up and I do about 20 jumping jacks, do 20 deep knee bends, then I...
If you don't recognize veteran bit part actor Ned Glass, you should get to know him. That face and voice made him instantly recognizable no matter what part he was playing. He was an excellent choice for this doctor. He gave the scene some genuine comedy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah? How about carbohydrates?
Oh, sure.
Oh, it's too much. It goes right to your liver. It's very bad for you. You've heard of high cholesterol? Huh? You have low cholesterol.
Low cholesterol.
Absolutely. You cut out all your sweets, your starches, your carbohydrates. You're fine.
Oh, thank you, young man. Thank you.
Back in room D, Stanley takes his pill.
Notice the color changes and the generator noises.
So he's actually making those noises while this is happening? And if you ever heard a 1967 era generator that sounded like that, I want to know about it in the comments. Stanley heads out the window to demonstrate how he flies.
Absolutely astounding.
Fantastic. Unbelievable.
I'll just leave that there. While everyone is looking out the windows, the fake Dr. Chelsea steals the 2 booster pills.
Cheers.
Definitely a positive reaction.
Yeah, he didn't puke it up like all the guys in the theme song. Hal is going to seize on those 2 words, positive reaction, and try to turn him into a running gag for the rest of the episode. The operative word there is try.
Naturally, I told you, I'm the guy for the job, Doc. What was that?
You knew we had to do that at least once.
What was what? Oh, don't tell me, young man. The pill is having an unfortunate side effect upon you.
No. Let's, when did the test begin?
In a moment. Nurse, my vitamin pill. I feel very tired this morning.
He's the star of the episode as far as I'm concerned. The lines are dopey, but his delivery makes them sound natural. That's talent. We go back and forth between Stanley demonstrating his strength and Hal trying to pretend he has some until it's finally time to go home. Victor, the guy posing as Dr. Chelsea, reports to his handlers that he has the formula, but they also need Stanley Beamish because it only works on him. So later that day, they kidnap him in a limo where Victor reveals himself.
They invent a power pill that works on me. Look at that.
That was Stanley.
With Victor Brashoff, one of the most unscrupulous spies in Washington.
Quick, Holly, we must get back to the office at once.
Trent immediately decides that Stanley has gone over to the other side, whose name we don't seem to say in this show. Russell! Must be coming down with something. Especially when they discover a bunch of cash in a Swiss bank account in Stanley's name. Reed won't believe it. They head to Victor's hotel room and find the real Dr. Chelsea, who heard the bad guys talk about where they were going.
All right, hands up, everyone. I'm afraid you'll have to postpone your trip indefinitely.
We really took them by surprise.
Drop the gun. Both of you.
You were saying, Holly?
They really took us by surprise.
Trent fulfills his fall guy role nicely. Then again, Paul Smith frequently played that kind of character, probably because of his facial expressions, so he knew how to do it well.
Well, in that case, good luck. Oh, and here's a parting gift for you. We won't need them any longer without you.
Thank you. Power pills.
While Stanley is rounding up the two goons holding Reed and Trent, the rest of the gang take off in the helicopter. Excuse me.
Helicopter.
He took elocution lessons from Commissioner Gordon. Stanley flies up to it.
Something's pulling us back to Earth.
You know what? I'm going to leave it to you folks to explain all the things wrong with that in the comments. Normally I screen comments, but I'll throw this one wide open. Just do me a favor and keep it clean. And if you can make it funny, I'll feature some of the best ones in an upcoming episode.
More power! More power!
Sorry, Tim the Toolman Taylor isn't around yet.
Good work, Stanley. I knew you wouldn't leave us like that.
Oh, I'd never do that, Mr. Reed. I'd never go to Europe. It's too far from the gas station.
The what?
The gas station.
Reed's reaction is great, and that's a pretty good joke. In the epilogue, Stanley tells Hal that the people in the limo were asking questions about him. Hal says, "That means I'm at the head of the line to be a super strong guy going around doing good deeds."
And I have just the name for you.
What's that?
General Good. Hey, that's nice. It's terrific.
You know, I have to admit, that episode finished strong. It's just too bad there wasn't more of that level of writing, because when you think about it, the basic premise really is a good basis for a sitcom. But it has to be well written and it has to be consistent. So the next question is, with that kind of finish, can we get on a bit of a roll and have more of it next episode? There's only one way to find out. For now, let's switch over to Captain Nice. Carter and his family are celebrating his birthday at a cafe run by this guy, the Great Medulla. He reads minds. He announces that there's a crazed killer in the audience, and we see a guy pull out a gun. Carter knows if there is such a person in the room, he's going to be dangerous, so he heads off to change into Captain Nice. Medulla prepares to reveal who the killer is.
Wait! I was not talking about you.
At Mayor Uncle Fred's office, he and the chief are discussing the recent rise in crime. Every criminal in the region has come to Big Town because Big Joe Kowalski, the only surviving member of the gang that pulled off a spectacular train robbery, is getting out of prison. He's the only one who knows where the money from that robbery is hidden.
The big San Bernardino train robbery? Don't tell me you haven't solved that case yet.
I haven't solved that case yet.
I asked you not to tell me that.
I wonder if we're going to do that joke every episode from now until cancellation day. Uncle Fred decides to have Medulla come in and read Big Joe's mind so they can find out where the money is first. Carter warns that Medulla is a total fraud.
All right, Carter. When Medulla gets here, take him down to your lab and examine him. You can use any scientific test you can.
All right, but I'm telling you, if you use that phony for official business, you'll become the laughing stock of Big Town. How would you like that?
I don't know. It hasn't bothered us so far.
That wasn't bad. Big Joe comes home to his wife and 2 sons who have waited 20 years to find out where all that money is.
My heart. Your taker's giving out.
Joe, what about the money?
Yeah, boss, tell us about the dough. Check. Check what? Room. What room? Medulla. Oh, Pa's dead.
Can't you just feel their grief?
What are we gonna do?
Well, I guess we better put the ice cream back in the freezer.
Better do something with him before he starts to stink. On the other hand, if I was part of his family and he let us live like that for 20 years rather than tell us where the money was so we could live a little more comfortably during that 20 years, I might have a bit of an attitude too. They decide the money must be in Medulla's room because Joe said check Medulla's room before he died. That's not actually what he said, but we'll discover that later. While the boys are off to search Medulla's room, Carter is examining Medulla himself.
That's it. You see before you a man with a stopped heart.
What?
Now, would you like to see a man with a stopped heart jump up and down?
Sir, I'm afraid I will have to...
I understand you want additional proof that my heart...
This guy is as phony as a $9 bill, as my dad used to say, and it's obvious to Carter. There's also the obvious question, how does stopping his own heart and then jumping up and down prove he can read minds?
Oh, come on, Mr. Medulla. Your heart is beating.
Of course. You see how fast I can start it up again?
Carter goes to search Medulla's room to look for clues that he's a fraud. In a drawer, he finds Medulla's stick-on third eye and tries it on.
Okay, Medulla.
Oh, I'm not Mr. Medulla.
Oh, yeah? Then how come you got his eye on?
I don't see where my eye is any of your business. Who are you?
Never mind that. Just tell me where the money's hidden.
He won't believe that Carter isn't Medulla, so he takes him back to Ma's place. Before we see what happens there, we waste a bunch of time in Mayor Uncle Fred's office where Sergeant Kane announces that Carter has been kidnapped and asks Medulla for help. He says he needs an article of clothing, so Carter's mother brings his whole wardrobe. It's not funny and goes nowhere, so I'm sparing you that part. At Ma's place, Carter insists he's not Medulla and he's not a mentalist.
I believe him, boys. He's telling the truth.
Thank you, ma'am.
Might as well kill him.
Hold it. I think I am falling into a trance.
You better be.
Carter takes advantage of their not-too-brightness and says he has to go to the money. They get in the car and follow his directions.
The vision calls me to the car. The vision tells me to sit in the front seat.
Why in the front seat?
The vision gets car sick.
That was a good line, and it's even better by virtue of the fact that they're buying it. He leads them to his own house, of course. Meanwhile, Medulla has led the Chief and Sergeant Kane to Carter's lab.
Not here, Mr. Medulla.
The sweatshirt has lied. Now, Mr. Medulla, we have been in every room in City Hall and still no trace of Carter.
Where is he, Mr. Medulla? Where is he?
I don't know. What am I, a mind reader?
Carter can't find his spare bottle of formula. Turns out his mother has it. But the Hoods are tired of waiting and they're getting ready to shoot Carter. They tell his mother, say your goodbyes.
Son, this is your mother speaking. This is a precious moment in the life of a mother. How many mothers are privileged to be present at the shooting and ultimate death of their only son?
Well, statistically speaking...
Hush, dear, mother is talking.
You're just the one getting shot. Don't interrupt the important one.
Now, you are about to depart this life, shamed and degraded by a couple of moronic thugs. Oh, nothing personal. I was just talking to my boy.
As motherly goodbyes go, I've heard worse.
A humiliation, son, you have earned because you are no longer the mentalist you used to be, and you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
I'll try, Mother.
Leading these men on with your fancy trances and a glazed look in your eyes when you know that the only power you ever had is right here in this bottle.
Mother!
Your precious memory juice.
Oh, of course. My memory juice.
Memory juice. He says he'll go into the next room, drink this stuff, and remember everything. Considering these guys, I think he could have told him it was the decongestant because the answer stuffed up his nose and they would have believed it.
Captain Knight!
right, Captain Nice.
That's the second costume he's had shot up today. Later on, it'll become a running gag with his mother complaining that she has to sew up bullet holes all the time. Why we weren't already doing that, I couldn't tell you.
All right, let's get it.
Good work, Captain Nice, whoever you are.
Thank you, Mother.
In the epilogue, Carter has figured out where the money is hidden. A mailbag was left in the check room at Medulla's a long time ago with the hat check girl's mother. It's the missing money and it's all there. Except the hat check girl won't give it to anybody, not even the chief of police, without a check.
Let me handle this. Honey.
How did you manage that?
Simple. You must have scared her to death. I just talked to her like a mother.
What did you say?
I said, hand me that mailbag, or I'll break every bone in your body.
Alice Ghostly, everyone. This episode had a lot of padding, especially the Medulla segments, but it also had some really good gags. I find it interesting that we're finding a way to kill at least one person every episode. I can't help wondering if that was planned or if it just happened. We're starting to get an idea what some of the secondary characters are like, such as the chief. But there was one segment that really confused me.
Sergeant Kane, I must talk to you privately.
Your place or mine?
Sergeant, I'm serious.
Good, my place is closer.
Sergeant Kane is really into Carter, we know that. But throwing yourself at him like this is out of character. Remember the almost kiss in the park? That's the Sergeant Candy Kane we know. She's subtle and ladylike. This chick is ready to sit on his face right there in the lab. Wrong, wrong, wrong. That's not the character you've established. I really hope this is an aberration. Both shows had pretty good stories this week. 5 weeks in, Mr. Terrific has done a really good job of establishing the main characters, including Reed and Trent. We have a fair idea how any of them will react in a given situation. Captain Nice, not so much. We're still figuring out the chief, there's lots of unanswered questions about the mayor, and we just contradicted ourselves with Sergeant Kane. Both shows had some really good jokes, but both also included way too much padding, eating up time that could have been used getting to know our characters better by giving them something to do. This is a big way in which Batman was superior to both shows put together because the Batman stories have virtually no padding. Pretty much everything you see contributes to the story or the characters in some way. If we open with Bruce teaching Dick to play Mahjong, there's a reason for it further on in the story. Things tie together. We don't get that in either of these shows. Too much time was spent in stuff that might as well be commercials for all the viewer cared. We wanted to know these people the way we knew Bruce Wayne, Dick Grayson, Alfred No Last Name, and all the rest. In the Batman series, we'd gotten to know them by the 3rd week. Here, we're in the 5th week, and while we know about the characters in many ways, we don't know them. They're not real people yet. Will they reach that point? We'll continue to explore that question next time. They can hide in plain sight because they look just like everybody else. Witless Stanley Beamish. Why did I say witless? Freudian slip?